introduce myself and this next segment. As I said, my name is Hamish. I'm a partner at Penningtons Manches. I will say something very quickly about what we do and why we're here, and then we will move on to, we have 13 presentations. So we are a full-service commercial law firm. We're reasonable size. We have 400 lawyers and over 100 partners, and we're quite well established and quite well known in certain areas. We've got 7 offices, and we're the only firm actually with offices in what you see in front of you, London, Oxford, Cambridge, and San Francisco, and we have quite a developed spin-out practice, early stage investment practice, and so on as a result of that. We're also we're actually one of the founder members of a very large law network, which gives us reach into other countries. But more importantly, in terms of why we're here, we have a specific focus in technology, and that goes across a number of verticals, for current purposes, renewables and clean tech. But because we work in IT and we work in data and we work in some other areas and regulatory, we see there's a huge convergence. So I think we hit the right sectors. And we have quite a lot of experience across the board in terms of the renewable work we do, right the way through to AD and carbon capture and energy efficiency, smart cities, EVs, etc. So we work right across the board. What's more relevant and perhaps more interesting is that we're very fortunate to be appointed as the sole legal provider to the EEF Incubation Support Consortium, which means that when businesses apply through BEIS to EEF and they receive their grant funding, there is a pot of money, if I can put it that way, put aside for those grant recipients to receive additional incubation support, and that may be consultancy support, market analysis. There are half a dozen consultants, but where there's legal requirements, then we're fortunate to have that role, and we've been doing that right across the EEF funds for about 4 or 5 years, going back to the last fund as well. So as a result, we see a lot of early stage businesses coming through that need support, and in the EEF context, that support they need from us is paid through the support funding. So we have a good idea of the sorts of issues which companies may face. One thing actually which I should mention just quickly, being very quickly, is we issued a report. We do a number of these reports actually, but this is on spin-outs, funding for spin-outs. It was actually last year, but we do, as I say, a lot of these reports. So it might be quite useful. We've brought a ton of them. So if you want to pick one off our table in the exhibition hall, then please do so. I thought I could have stopped there, but I thought I'd just say something about the sorts of issues we see for early stage companies seeking investment, and there are obviously lots of them, so I could go on, but if we nail it down to a few, I think these are some of the important points we see time and again. We help a lot of businesses with actually their pitching and their business plan, and actually helping them to understand how to reflect perceived or actual investor concerns and investor needs. And we do see a huge range of business plans, and I think the most important thing is to show that you have a clear direction and a clear application and scalability, and that there's a clear understanding of what you need and where you want to be going. Other things to think about for early stage investment include obviously other funding avenues, of which there are many. And I think when you're looking for investors, do think about the different sorts of investors, all of which have their pros and their cons. And it really depends what you need as a business. And we work both on the west coast of the US and in the UK, with a lot of VCs and angel investors as well. I think what's important, and this is an obvious point to make, but is to, if you're looking for investment, look across different sorts of investors, have different conversations at the same time, and try to understand who really understands your particular subsector, look at what they're investing in already, and what their appetite for long-term commitment might be. And another point with investors is some investors are more hands-off and some want to get more involved and perhaps have ideas about how they can help with putting in people for executive management and so on. So there's just a ton of issues to think about, and these are some of them. The other, where we generally become involved, is in actually making a business, even at an early stage, sort of investment ready, if I can use that term. And that covers lots of different areas, including corporate aspects, including IP protection, and increasingly understanding how important your know-how is, as well as your IP, which is, you know, you might be thinking about your patent filing strategy, but think about your know-how, and that leads to thinking about your people as well. Management team to be strongly aligned and robust is a very obvious thing to say, but we often see at an early stage that there's gaps or there's disagreements. And then there's some other points around what are your key anchor relationships, whether it be an energy company which you're having a pilot project with, or a key supplier or a key customer of another kind. And then finally, when it comes to the actual investment documentation, there's an issue to ensure that you don't overcomplicate things, especially at an early stage, but by the same token, you want to ensure that you're setting yourself up well for the future in terms of the level of control and management you have. So that was just a very, very quick skim through the sorts of things we see. I'm now going to just introduce the 13 presenters we have, keeping to 5 minutes each. Also, we do have, as everyone is aware, we have the anniversary today of the Grenfell Tower tragedy, and there is going to be a minute's silence at midday. So I will try and organise the presentations around that, but depending on what happens, we will in any event stop for a minute's silence at midday.